war, death, suffering. Why can't we just live in peace? This video is not about bad people. It's about good people and why they so often don't understand this conflict. It's dedicated to people with good intentions, people who genuinely want peace, people who are tired of war and bloodshed. And to make things harder for myself, I wouldn't speak in theory, and I wouldn't use an easy example of some American activist who doesn't really understand much about the Middle East. Instead, I will talk about an Israeli, a good person, a moral person, an impressive human being whom I completely disagree with. I'm talking about Maoz.
We came here to DC to say three words. Peace is possible. Peace is possible. And because our politicians lost their political imagination or leadership to take us to the promised land, to take us to peace, we have decided to step in and to start a peace process that would lead by the people.
What will it take to move beyond words into action? If I can put that to both of you.
Yes, exactly. So we must amplify the voices of peace. We must shout out, we must cry, we must talk to everyone that peace is possible, and by that changing the discourse.
Let's start at the beginning. He's not ignorant, he's not stupid. He's an entrepreneur in independent tourism. And together with good partners, he helped change independent tourism in Israel. He created the Jesus Trail from Nazareth to Capernaum. He opened some of the biggest and best hostels in Israel. He is a social entrepreneur. He was always a peace activist. On October 7th, his parents were murdered in Nativ Asara. Gazans burned them alive in their home. After that, Maoz decided to continue on the path of peace with even greater intensity. He stepped down from his role in the hostels, and since then, he has been dedicating himself to reconciliation. I strongly disagree with him. The desire for reconciliation sounds noble, and I believe he genuinely means well. But he's basing his dreams on delusions, and delusions can be dangerous. In this video, I won't try to prove why Maoz personally is wrong. If Gazans murdered his parents and that didn't change his worldview, no YouTube video will succeed in doing so. Instead, I will try to listen to him carefully and understand the gap between our approaches. The first thing I did was watch several of his interviews in English. There are many of them, and I understand why. What Maoz says sounds very good to the ears of the European mainstream media. When I lived in Germany, I used to joke that German media always interviews the same 5 Israelis from the Israeli left. Good people, smart people, but people who represent maybe 5% of Israeli society. They are interviewed not because they represent Israel, but because they say what European journalists want to hear. Let me summarize 30 years of German journalists interviewing Israelis. Every interview goes something like this. Can you please tell us what we want to hear? Yes, this is possible, and there are extremists on both sides. They will never interview someone like me, someone who will say, this is a religious conflict. Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, these are Islamic movements, not national ones. The values we in the West take for granted, democracy, freedom of speech, equal rights for women, freedom of religion, do not exist in the Muslim world. Oh, and the rise you see in sexual assault in Germany, terror attacks, the fact that you need security around Christmas markets, are not because of Jewish immigrants. You can agree with me or disagree with me. It's a bit hard to disagree with the facts that I bring, but my views represent Israelis far more than those the global media loves to cover. I understand the media's logic. Maoz Inon sells hope, reconciliation, a story with a happy ending, and he genuinely believes in it. Maoz doesn't listen to the other side as it really is. He listens to the beautiful voices in his own head, and they really are beautiful. They just have very little to do with reality. There is something important I want to make clear. I don't enjoy saying these things. I want peace no less than Maoz Inon and his friends. The difference is that I refuse to let my wishes blur the brutal reality. I wish I could tell you that there is democracy and freedom of speech across the Muslim world. I wish I could tell you that the chance of a Jew or Hindu running people over at a Christmas market in Europe is equal to the chances that a Muslim will do it. I wish I could tell you that Hamas represents only a tiny marginal group. I wish I could tell you that only a small number of Arabs believe that murdering civilians on October 7th was a moral act. But I can't. And here lies the fundamental difference between people like Mao Zedong and me. I bring facts to the table. Maoz doesn't really contradict those facts. He simply says the situation is bad, it is true. The Israeli government is bad, which is true. And we need to believe it can change, that peace is possible. To illustrate how willfully blind this approach can be, I want to share this clip.
Maoz can ask you a difficult question. I said, you are my friend, you can ask whatever you like. She asked me, Maoz, maybe your parents' house was burned from a crossfire from the IDF and not from the Hamas. And she was literally denying October the 7th. And I was shocked. I didn't know what to say. And then I stopped for a second and I told her, you know what? What does it matter? What does it matter? My parents are dead. And they are dead because of the conflict and the war that has been going on for so long. And it's our mission to stop it.
This is next level denial. The claim that Israeli civilians were killed by the Israeli army on October 7th is a lie promoted by the anti-Israel movement. It resonates with Muslims and left-wingers because in Muslim countries and in communist countries, it is common that the army shoots its own civilians. In Israel, this idea is absurd. It doesn't matter if you are pro-Bibi or anti-Bibi. Israeli soldiers sacrificed their lives to save civilians. Hundreds of them did exactly that on October 7th and 8th. Maoz himself admits he was shocked by this question. And yet, the fact that even Arabs he considered friends deny October 7th or remove responsibility from Hamas should have been a wake-up call. Instead, it barely moves him. In a strange way, I think Maoz is a kind of positive racist, if there is such a word. He treats Arabs as if they have no agency, no responsibility for their choices and actions. I respect Arabs more than that. If Hamas, the leading movement in Gaza, openly states that Israel will exist only until Islam wipes it out, I believe them. I don't dismiss what the enemy is saying because it doesn't fit a comforting narrative. You might ask, why make a video about good people spreading messages of peace and hope? Because when hope is detached from reality, it becomes dangerous. Ignoring reality doesn't solve problems. It allows them to grow until they explode. History gives us a perfect example. World War I and what followed. After unimaginable slaughter, Europe embraced pacifism. In 1933, the Oxford Union declared it would never fight for king and country. 1 month earlier, Hitler came to power. He learned a very different lesson from World War I, that war is natural and that the strong impose their will. What made World War II inevitable and catastrophic was appeasement. The desire to avoid war did not prevent war, it made it worse. Germany is a democracy today not because the Allies compromised with the Nazis, but because the Nazis were defeated and Germany was re-educated. Western Europe didn't learn the correct lesson from World War II, that you have to fight for what is right. The main difference from then to today is that the United States will no longer come to save Western Europe from itself. That is why messages like Maoz Inon's, which appeal to emotion and hope while ignoring reality, are dangerous. They also serve the other side. I decided to make this video, even though I didn't want to, because I know him and we have dozens of mutual friends, after Maoz appeared on Madi Hassan's show. Hassan, like Al Jazeera, the network he worked for, is obsessed with attacking Israel. Muslims slaughtering each other in Yemen and Syria, Christians are massacred in Sudan and Nigeria, women are oppressed across the Muslim world, and the focus is always Israel. Maoz went on that show and criticized only Israel.
If I can add that the way to change the current discourse and public opinion within Israel should go in two different components. One is sanctions. Israel must be sanctioned, not with the US and the EU and the international community must sanction our government, IDF, high rank officers, settlers. What's happening in Gaza, of course, is happening in the West Bank. So it's not going to stay in Gaza. The ethnical cleansing and the death toll and the destruction are already happening the same in the West Bank. So Israel must be sanctioned.
Listening to him, you would think he hates Netanyahu more than the people who burned his parents alive. To stay respectful, I will not call it what it is. If Maoz Inon says, to prevent war, I'm willing to convert to Islam and live under Sharia law, this is what Hamas aims to achieve, fine, that's a different discussion. By the way, even if the entire world convert to Islam, there would still be no peace, because look at who kills the most Muslims for political reasons. Other Muslims. The Muslim world loves to obsess over Israel to avoid taking responsibility for the violence within Muslim society itself. But if Maoz believes that democracy has value, that women have equal rights, that gays should not be imprisoned, and that freedom of speech is important, then I have news for you. You need to fight for those ideas. You need to confront ideas that reject them, values you take for granted, but that simply do not exist across most of the Muslim world, and certainly not in Gaza. That is also why so many people are drawn to Maoz's message. It feels reassuring. It offers emotional comfort. It sounds far better than what I have to offer. Listening to the uncomfortable truth and defending our core values, even when doing so is difficult. Good people, like most people, tend to assume others are essentially like them. It is an easy belief to hold, and a dangerous one. Wanting peace is noble. Refusing to face reality is not. I will send this video to Maoz Inon. If he chooses to respond in a video or a post, I will publish his response in full on this channel. Please give this video a like, leave a comment, and share this video with someone who needs to see it. See you in the next video. Yalla bye.